Welcome back to the Historical Light Masonic Podcast, dedicated to illuminate our past and bring our Masonic history to light since 2016. And now, enjoy the show. Welcome back, Tony Borum, past Grand Master of Kansas. Welcome to Historical Light Masonic Podcast. Hello, my friend. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great, brother. It's great to be on, and I can't complain at all. I've been doing just great.
Well, you're not doing it right then if you can't complain. That's for sure.
Well, it doesn't do any good anyway.
It does not. Now, Tony, you and I go way back, but there's some folks watching the show that do not know you. And if you could just tell us about Tony Borum, give us your Masonic history, how you got into the craft, and then we'll dive into the other stuff.
Well, sure. I joined Freemasonry back in 1984, and I actually was raised in a Missouri lodge. It was a large lodge, right, real close to the stadium in Kansas City, and not too far from Arrowhead Shrine, and a lot of members going through there. And it was kind of interesting when I petitioned and actually got invited to join. I told my father-in-law, and he says I didn't know he was a Mason even, which happened a lot with those older Masons. They never told anybody that they were Masons, but I joined the lodge, and I was just thrilled with the complexity of it, the memory work. I enjoyed the ritual, and the guys were all in tuxedos and lots of members, and very busy lodge, and I just got enamored with it. And then my daughter was getting ready to start school, and we were in the Kansas City School District, and we decided that that really wasn't where we wanted her to go to school. So I talked to my father-in-law. He had a little machine shop, was a machine shop teacher, and he was getting busy, and I told him, I said, if you'll teach me the craft, his craft, because I really enjoyed it, and then I'd move my whole family down to Parker, and I'd start over a new career, and that's how I ended up in Parker. And so my Masonic journey actually went from a Missouri lodge, and 2 years later into Kansas, and I joined as a dual member in Parker Lodge, and spent several years in Parker, going up through chairs. And it was kind of a little bit of a change. It was a lot of change as far as what my Masonic expectations were and things like that. But I enjoy my Parker brothers, and I've always been an active member in Parker Lodge, and I've been past master a couple times, and that's kind of where it went. As far as my Masonic journey, from there, I was a lodge secretary in Parker for I think 13 years, and
and you escaped that. How'd that happen?
Yeah, we had a visitor, a district deputy. He came to visit on his official visit, and I'm not going to name his names or anything, but he wasn't real happy of taking the position. Evidently, he was kind of forced into it and didn't want to do it. And I just was really not too thrilled with his visit, but he did say a couple things that if somebody wanted that job, he'd be glad to give it to him. And that was back when we used to trade, or we used to go from lodge to lodge in the district, and you just pick your guy, and it just kind of rotated from lodge to lodge. And I just knew there had to be something more that the Grand Lodge was doing that could help our lodges, because I'd visited some lodges, and he didn't seem like he was real thrilled with learning too much or expanding too much about what the Grand Lodge toolbox was. And so I threw my name in the hat, and that's where it started. Don Newman appointed me. No, Tracy Bloom appointed me as district deputy, and then Don Newman kept me the following year, and then I became an area deputy. That would have been under Halloran, I think. That would have been Rick Riker, and then Halloran from there.
Excellent. Now, there's people joining in, and they're telling me that my streak continues of wonderful board operation, that I had no sound during our intro. So for those who are wondering who this stranger is, because I can't figure out how to put his name up, this is Tony Borum from Tuscan Lodge and past Grand Master of Kansas as well. But he says just call him brother, so that's what we're going with
That's
tonight.
right. That's right.
So thanks, Justin, and the guys at Gardner Masonic Temple for keying me into the fact that it may have been better when I'm quiet. Now, Tony, we just heard your Masonic history, but this podcast goes worldwide, and we are coming into the holiday season. And I am aware, very keenly aware, of how your first introduction to the Masonic Brotherhood started. And it was through a worldwide organization. Would you care to expound on that a little bit?
I'm not following you where you're going with it.
Well, I understand that there's some guys in red hats that may have had interaction with you when you were a youngster.
Well, if we got time, I'll go ahead and I can go back into that, because that's actually that's a good story, and I could expand it, but let me do it quickly.
And folks, this ties in because I know we focus on a lot of Blue Lodge stuff, but this ties in especially at the holiday season. So, Tony, please go ahead.
So I joined Freemasonry because I wanted to be a Shriner. I don't make any bones about it. I was about 10 years old, 3 brothers, and we were all 4 put in a children's home in St. Louis. While my mom and dad were pretty dysfunctional, they couldn't take care of us, and my mom was having some issues mentally and things. She lost a daughter, and my dad was pretty dysfunctional. And my time in the children's home was real traumatizing for me. But at one point, I was separated from my brothers. Back then they didn't keep siblings together, even in the same rooms or houses. And I was separated from my brothers. But I remember one morning, the cottage mother that took care of my age group, she set a Sears catalog down in front of me. She said, "Pick a toy out of there." And I didn't want a toy. I wanted to go home. I didn't want to be there. But she made me do it. And I finally thumbed through the pages, and I stopped in what I thought was a toy guitar. And I circled it, and she said, "Go ahead and go back to your room." And around Christmas time, she said, "Get your Sunday clothes on." It was a Baptist children's home, and we all had Sunday clothes. And she said, "Wait in the lobby, and you're going to go to a dinner." I said, "Okay." So I'm sitting there in the lobby with about, I'm going to say 6 or 7 other kids, and a bus pulled up, and these guys with red hats come off this bus, and it seemed like they had a red-hatted man for every child, every kid, and we got on this bus, and it was obvious that they were chaperoning each one of us individually, and I didn't know anything about them, but I figured that it was safe, and they took us down to a big building downtown St. Louis, and it turns out I believe that was the Moolah Shrine, and they had a Christmas dinner, and all these children are about the same position I was, and I walked into this room, and there's this Santa Claus in the corner, and he's got presents around him, and around him, or right next to him, was this guitar that I remembered that I had put my finger on, had a red bow on it. And I just knew that these guys had got that guitar for me, and I didn't want a guitar. I didn't want to learn how to play a guitar. I didn't want anything to do with it. But I was so emotional about that, because I thought at the time these guys cared enough to give me something for Christmas that they thought that I was really wanting. So anyway, that made a real impression on me, and it stayed with me. Came back from the children's home when I was 12, missing 2 brothers. They were adopted out, and got married. I went through high school, put myself through high school basically, and found the love of my life. And we got married and had a couple kids. And I believe my daughter was around 4, and my son was around 2 in '84. Anyway, we were walking into a Kmart store in Independence, Missouri, and here's one of those guys in the red hats. I never hadn't seen once before or since, and I started talking to him. I told him that same story, And he said, and I asked him, how could I be a Shriner? And he said, well, there's a path you got to take, and you have to do some things first, and I'll help you. And it turns out he said I have to join a Masonic lodge, and I said I'll do whatever it takes. And it turns out this man lived. We shared a back fence. He was that close to me, and he helped me get through the lodge, petitioned the lodge, and like I say, my father-in-law found out that I was joining, and he was at the time about a 40-year member actually, and it all went from there. But once I got into Blue Lodge and joined and got with these guys, I really caught on to the ritual, and I learned it real fast and felt like I was pretty good at it, and they thought I was too. So we had study clubs twice a week, and we were running at that time in Eastgate Lodge, number 630, 10 members a month through that lodge, and I was doing a lot of the coaching, and then when I decided to change my career and move to Kansas, I had to tell those guys, I'm going to be moving to Kansas, and they wished me well, and that's where it went. But the fact remains is I joined to be a Shriner, and I found my calling in Blue Lodge, and I am now a Shriner. I joined a few years back. I'm not as active as I'd like to be, but I still support everything they do, but my passion has always been Blue Lodge.
And how many years have you been a Blue Lodge Mason?
Since '84. So that would be
been a day or two.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah, it's 84. It's going on 40. So
excellent. So, and that just is so timely for me, because a lot of times the diehard Blue Lodge Masons kind of cast a weird eye on the shrine, and to me that's always been such a great story. Mm-hmm. Because if it weren't for those Shriners,
that's right,
the things that happened in the Kansas history and for Tuscan Lodge would have never occurred. And right. A lot of the differences that Tuscan Lodge is doing. And
those members at Eastgate Lodge, they were all Shriners, but they were all officers in their lodge, and they took the Blue Lodge very, very seriously. And over the years, I may have given the impression sometimes that I'm not fond of the relationship that Shriners and our Masons have, but I'm telling you right now, we have to work together, and there is a place for all of our organizations, no question about it.
And as you're telling the story, Tony, we've getting several comments coming in, people commenting about their love for you and the impact of that story. And I encourage everybody, whether you're watching this broadcast live or on a rewatch, please leave your comments about what your thoughts are about the topic, about Tony's story. We love to see those. But Tony, that's you put your time in Blue Lodge, in your local lodge there in Parker, and let's move over into this Tuscan Lodge thing.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Tell us about this whole affinity lodge, because in some states where we've got members watching, they don't have affinity lodges. So talk to us about affinity lodges and how this whole Tuscan Lodge thing came to be.
Yeah, I started getting interested in that. Basically, I took a trip, I think, with you on a visit to Justice Lodge. I didn't know anything about affinity lodges, but I took a trip with you, and I was really impressed with the group that was in Justice Lodge at the time. They seemed to be getting a different Masonic journey, right? They were getting some of that Masonic education. They were respectful, and they were showing up the lodge in dark suits, and I really, really loved that part of the Masonic experience. And then I remember I went to, in fact, I was actually a speaker for Mike Halloran in 2014 at the Leadership Academy in Topeka, and his keynote speaker was Andrew Hammer. And Andrew Hammer, of course, is all about the Masonic experience in his book, Observing the Craft. And I read that book. I got the book and read it, and it made a real impression on me about how it's important that every Mason finds a way to get that Masonic experience that fits him. You may not be getting it in your home lodge, and you may be getting everything you need in your home lodge, and that's great. But we have a lot of Masons that aren't getting that Masonic experience. And of course, our COA today, just like it was when I was coming up through, the Masonic experience we understand is one of the most important things. That's how you keep members. That's how you keep Masons involved, and that's how you improve yourself. And that's what Masonry to me is. It's a self-improvement organization. We never want to forget that. And so in that book, as I'm reading some of the things there, and then I reflected back on your Justice Lodge, I thought, I'd really like to join an affinity lodge. Of course, I can't join Justice because it's made up of law enforcement, and I've never been involved with that. But I started talking to you,
Tony. We know you've been involved with law enforcement, just not maybe the way you wanted to be involved with law enforcement.
Yeah, I have had a orange jumpsuit on for a short period, and I'll get into that some other time. but anyway, I was talking to you about it, and the more I thought about it, I wanted to I couldn't find that affinity lodge that fit me, and that fit a lot of the guys that I knew. The Lee Hermricks and the Dale Morrow and Craig Olson. I'm going to drop some names here, and you and Mike Johnson.
So you got to remember, Tony, that this podcast goes outside of Kansas, so you're dropping names and nobody knows these names. What type of guys are you talking about here?
Okay, what I'm talking about is the guys that were masters in their lodges, and that found that they had more to offer in Kansas Masonry, and they volunteered and they put their hearts into being district and area deputies. And I found that those guys, the ones that were district and area deputies, were the ones that were working the hardest to make Masonry better, and sharing ideas, and they're leaders in our craft. And I thought to myself, and I had this conversation with you, I would love to sit in a lodge with these guys that understand the importance of ritual, the importance of Masonic ed, the importance of upholding the standards of Masonry, no matter what state or jurisdiction you're in, upholding standards that we all expect in Masonry. And I just, it was obvious that district and area deputies were the ones that doing it. And then I got to thinking, well, how about the past district and area deputies, the ones that took the job, had it for a couple of years, and then they didn't have anything else afterwards, right? Maybe they wanted to stay involved with that type of in that atmosphere with those like-minded men, and so that's where we got to.
So these guys that you're looking at, they're not Grand Lodge line people. These are like the appointees of the people that have to go out and talk to the craft. Is that what you're saying?
Right. That's right. They're the ones that are going to lodges, helping with degree work, going to lodges, helping solve their problems. Right?
Okay.
Problem solvers. And so and now I think you probably want to ask me this, but I'm going to go right into it. I was at a event in Lewisburg, Kansas. I believe it was a past masters dinner, I believe. And there were several Grand Lodge officers there, and one of them was Lynn Byer. Lynn Byer is a past Grand Master, and I believe he was at that time he was a senior warden or junior warden. I can't remember. Was it in 2014? Well, but anyway, he was probably a senior warden, wasn't he? So
I think he was Grand Senior Warden at that time. Yep.
And he gave a talk about the Tuscan pillars, right? And it really made an impression on me. And I think you even mentioned it. And we had a conversation outside afterwards about because we talked about starting an affinity. And I'm thinking, the Tuscan would be a perfect name because it's that pillar that we all build on, the one that is plain to start with, but we're working to make it better. So Tuscan was an obvious name. Now, later on, I found that there used to be a Tuscan Lodge, but I'm not going to talk about that. We kept the name, but there was a Tuscan Lodge at one time in Kansas that was defunct, and I think had something to do. I think they merged in with Neosho or something like that.
They did, but, anyway, but this Tuscan Lodge would turn into Tuscan 460.
Yeah,
this is and we don't know necessarily the history of how the other Tuscan got its name,
Right.
but
Right.
this one was designed specifically with the purpose that's kind of talked about in ritual work around the world.
Yeah, and affinity lodges at that time in 2014 were just getting off the ground in Kansas, right? We had, I think, Justice did Heritage Lodge, was that formed at that time?
It was.
That was, I think, those were the only two at the time. And
So yes, affinity lodges had just started several years before that.
And you guys from Justice actually got it in the bylaws and what the rules were for under dispensation for affinity lodges. And so we knew what the steps were to take in order to form this lodge. We had to get 10 guys together. We had to get the Grand Master's approval for the affinity. And the affinity was Grand Lodge appointed officers, right? And so Mike Halloran at the time did some research, and he found that it was a proper affinity because it related to, I believe in England or Scotland, they had a affinity lodge for senior and junior stewards that actually wore their own particular apron. And so Halloran was able to approve our affinity of area and district deputies at that point. We went through all the steps. We created a mission and statement. We did everything that we had to do in order to prove that we could open and close. Of course, we're all district and area deputies, and that was one of the things I really liked about the group is that everybody could do their parts and do them very, very well. And so we applied for a dispensation, under dispensation, and we actually received our charter, I believe, the same day that you were installed as Grand Master.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm playing through the pictures there. It's a very historic moment, the way I think the Grand Master came through, because Mike Halloran was the charter master of the first affinity lodge in Kansas,
right?
And he is a huge historian. I mean, I'd love if we could get him, if Alex could get him on this show. He is a wealth of information. Not that you and I aren't, but he's one of those guys I could listen to for hours.
Yeah, I have so much respect for him. I actually reached out to him to help us design our logo, even, and he designed our logo for Tuscan Lodge.
And he was very passionate about affinity lodges and the tight-knit, smaller lodges, and the fact that he researched that just to make sure everything was fit within the ancient usages of Freemasonry to get Tuscan Lodge. And then he's the one that was able, a couple years later, to sign your charter and present it to you and install the first officers. To me, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, we were installed. All of our officers were installed on April the 12th, maybe. Well, maybe that's what the picture. It was anyway. It was the day after. It was the day of your installation, in the afternoon, and we went to the Grand Lodge building and in the lodge room, and Mike installed us, and the I believe Tracy Bloom was the marshal.
Yeah.
Past Grand Master Tracy. So, and it just went on from there. We've had a lot of members come and go. We assumed that we'd be in the 10 to 15 member range, and that's where we're at. One thing we did do, if you want to go ahead and go into this, we did decide early on that in order for Tuscan to be successful, we had to have higher dues, and we came up with a number that was going to work for our festive boards that we planned on doing. It was gonna finance all the things that we wanted to do, Masonic Ed, and all those things, honorariums to go to different lodges, and it's worked out real well. So our dues are fairly high for Kansas standards, but we absolutely, when we have a meeting, it is an event. It's most of the day, and everybody just loves to come to our Tuscan meetings.
Now, Tony, for those people that don't know, because there's a lot of people that don't know, because you keep saying high dues, and in Kansas, the average dues fee, and I think across the North America, the average dues are probably right now around between $60 to $80. At the time Tuscan was formed, I'm going to say, between $40 and $60. So what are the Tuscan dues?
Our Tuscan dues are $1 a day. It's $365 per year.
And I've heard you say many times, if Freemasonry is not worth $1 a day.
That's right. That's right. That's what we feel Masonry is worth, and especially for our lodge brothers feel $1 a day is not a burden. We have funds where we can do the things that we need to do in order to create the atmosphere, to have that Masonic experience that we all need, that we all crave, and also we have funds for doing some of the things that we're doing now. We put out a strategic plan in 2016 where we decided that since we had so many leaders in our lodge, we're going to be more active in helping to train future district and area deputies. So we were active in our orientations with the Grand Lodge and trying to help to make our district and area deputies in Kansas the most educated, well-informed, and quality men that we can get into our lodges.
Certainly. And I want to take a break right here, Tony. I just want to say a big thank you to Justin Staley. He sent 20 stars through Facebook. It's a support for this program. I'd also like to say thank you to all the Patreon folks of the program. I'm trying to bring up that logo, but not sure. There it is right there on the screen. But a big thank you to all our Patreon supporters for Historical Light. If you click on the Patreon link, you can support the show. Whether it's $1, whether it's $10, $100, or $1,000, it's great. At the ambassador level, you get a cool Historical Light T-shirt that looks really cool in the dark. But support for lodges helps. Support for the show helps. We appreciate and thank all our Patreon supporters and those that are sending support through YouTube and through Facebook tonight. Just like to comment out. I'm sure I'll miss somebody. Jeff Black is watching live. So is Derek Hockett, Sean Mullen, Commissioner Justin Staley, the folks at the Gardner Masonic Temple. I see Dale Morrow checked in. Dale Morrow ended up, I believe he's a member of Tuscan Lodge as well, Tony.
Yes, he is.
Charter members, I believe.
Yes, he is. He's one of the charter members. You know, Dale and I go way back. We were installed as area deputies at the same time. There was 10 of us, 10 area deputies. We were installed in Salina, and we hit it off really right off the bat. Me and Dale and Craig Olson especially, and we were actually called the three Musketeers or something at one time. But it was obvious that all three of us had all these aspirations for doing the best we could for our lodges and our areas, and we just hit the ground running, trying to do everything we could to help our lodges. And then, of course, at that time, I believe that was Don Newman. But the next year is when Most Worshipful Rick Reichert actually gave our area deputies more duties and more responsibilities, and let us be in on a lot of the decision making that was going on in our Grand Lodge officers, because we had a lot to offer. You know, we had a lot of experience in our lodges, and we just kind of took over that whole group and really pushed our area deputies into a stronger role in Masonry in Kansas. It used to be they were more ceremonial than anything else, and we pushed our area deputies to actually be more active.
And I also see one of our current district deputies in Kansas, Jake Edmonds, is also watching. And for a person like, we'll say, Brother Jake Edmonds, and new district deputies or new area deputies, what does Tuscan do? I mean, like you say, you used to be just a formality, or you have a 3-hour training and then go get them, Tiger. But what does Tuscan offer to these guys?
Well, we have actually came up with 3 lanes that we are working on to help train our area and district deputies. One is the art of public speaking, and especially speaking in a Masonic group. You can't convince people that you know what you're doing and that the Grand Lodge is doing everything they can to help if you can't communicate well. And so we're doing that. Dale, in fact, is working on a lesson plan for teaching our bylaws and constitution. Because again, if our leaders, our district and area deputies aren't really well versed in our bylaws, Grand Lodge bylaws, and our constitution, then they can't answer a lot of the questions that are coming up to them in the lodges. And then we also have a communication lane that where we're going in and helping these district deputies to deal with all the different modes of communication they need, emails and the our lodge page and the M2 and all the other things, that all the methods that we have now at our disposal to communicate with our brothers, all the way from the first for enter apprentices all the way up to masters and secretaries of the lodges. And so that's the role we're playing now in a leadership position. We're also always available for doing Masonic Ed and helping out with degree work. Tuscan Lodge members have gone and done outdoor degrees. We're not making Masons in our lodge. We're strictly plural members, but we're available since we all have the ability to do degree work. And as a group, we've done. In fact, we went down and did a Silverdale Quarry degree one time as a group, as Tuscan Lodge. And so we're always looking for ways that we can help lodges and especially our district and area deputies be better at what they do. And working closely with our Grand Lodge, our Grand Master and the Deputy Grand Master when they appoint these new guys, and even the guys that's been around a while. There's always something you can learn. Did you freeze up?
There we go. Turn the microphone on. It's a simple thing. I used to work in radio, and they have a big switch and a dial, and all these little small buttons, and my old fat fingers just not quite the same. But I'd like to kind of take a step back from the Grand Lodge involvement with Tuscan Lodge. And since this is, the theme of Historical Light is preserving the history of Freemasonry. And the first half of this show has been great. But Tony, the thing I want to hear about now is describe to our viewers and our listeners what the, I'm going to say, average or normal Tuscan Lodge experience is for a lodge meeting. And it's definitely unique. And, I know it's a lot of, you talked about Andrew Hammer, but going to a Tuscan Lodge is an event. I'd just like you to describe that so we can capture that for the future.
Sure. We try to meet 4 to 5 times a year. And since we're all busy, we all have other obligations, especially, and we got current Grand Lodge or area and district deputies on as members. So we try to work around all that. But what we do is we sit down before the new master comes in, and we try to decide what lodges we like to visit. Our home lodge, where our charter is Ottawa, Kansas. And so we try to have one meeting there every year. But our other meetings are wide open. We have, of course, scheduled meetings 4 times a year, quarterly. And then what we do is we try to pick a lodge, and we try to pick a different lodge every time, because we got some fantastic lodges across Kansas that don't get the exposure and don't get the use that we feel they need. So we pick a lodge, and we go to this lodge, or we contact them and say, we'd like to meet at your lodge, and we'd like to do it on a Saturday or Sunday. We try to do it on weekends. We want to do it on Saturday or Sunday, and we'll meet let's say at 1 o'clock, and we all show up, and we invite, of course, we're using their lodge building, but we pay an honorarium to help cover some of the expenses. Their master or secretary or whoever will open the building for us. Their members are always invited to our meetings. We do have a requirement for a dark suit or tie. We feel that creates that environment that we all want to be in when we have a Masonic meeting with leaders. So we show up to a meeting, and we open just like every other lodge. We have our opening. We discuss the things that we want to accomplish. A lot of times we go right into our leadership training. If we have our committees that are working on certain things, we might even have them give us a update and maybe a PowerPoint on what they're doing, and then we all give input on that. If we have members that want to join our lodge, we have a system where we have a questionnaire we send them, and we all discuss the answers to that questionnaire, whether or not they're going to fit into our lodge, whether or not the dues is going to be a burden to them, whether or not wearing a dark suit and tie is really against what they really want to be or really want to do. And so we go through all those things. So we have our balloting, and we have our petitions just like a normal lodge would for plural members. And then we go into some of the traditional observance things about make sure we have Masonic education. Sometimes it's outside speakers. Sometimes we do it ourselves. But we always get something different, and we always have that discussion afterwards. We've even had a debate inside of our lodge. We get a topic, and we get the brothers to take both sides of an argument. Something simple, and then we have long discussions about that. And then we one of the things that we do toward the end of our meeting that I really, really, really believe that would be interesting or good for every lodge to do is we ask each brother individually to we just have this discussion. How are you doing? What's going on in your life? Do you need anything? Is everybody okay? And then we go around the room, and even our visitors, we offer that to them if they want to talk about what's going on in their lives or what's going on in masonry or what's missing or what's doing great. They share, and it's something where we build those brotherly connections to each other, and that's one of the things we always look forward to. And then what's amazing is we look up, and we've been in a lodge meeting for 3 to 4 hours, and it doesn't seem like it. I've been in lodges where if it goes 30 or 40 minutes, the guys are getting fidgety. They want out of there. But our brothers and our members look forward to these meetings. It's enjoyable. It has everything they want for their Masonic experience. And then we close our meeting, and we immediately go to a restaurant or we have a catered meal, and we have a quality festive board, and we have just good fellowship at our festive boards, and we invite our guests to go, and that's a Masonic meeting how it's supposed to be. Sometimes we'll have a picnic at one of our brothers' house, and then we'll have a meeting at a local lodge that's close to him. So the Tuscan meetings are pretty much like most Masonic meetings, except we expand our Masonic experience to include Masonic Ed, and also to make sure that every brother in that lodge understands how important our ritual is, and we practice our ritual, and we make sure we do it well. And then we also have our festive boards, which we always look forward to. And of course, our dues covers all the expenses for that.
Tony, there are people that listen to this on not live, but they'll watch it afterwards, down the road, years down. And when they hear you say it's just like a regular lodge, they've already wrecked their car. And you said the lodge meeting lasts more than 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it lasts more than an hour. It lasts more than 90 minutes. And you're saying it's a regular meeting. And people just can't fathom having a 2-hour or more regular meeting. But yet that is a common occurrence at Tuscan Lodge, is what you're telling me.
Yes, it is. And like I say, we've never had one person that say, hey, that meeting went way too long. We just don't, because we enjoy each other. We listen to each other. We encourage each other, and there's always something interesting to talk about. And we understand how important it is for a lodge, a group of guys in a lodge, to not only act like a lodge, but to get along well. We get along so well, and we love each other so much, and then we share that at the end of the meeting. Sharing that we do makes that connection even deeper.
And when you do that at the end of the meeting, is that just for the lodge officers, or how does that work?
No, we go around the room. We just make a circle around the room, and we'll give a brother as much time as he wants to talk about what's going on in his life. And we've had guys that would talk for 30 minutes, and we've had guys that talked for one, and we've had guys that said, I don't want to talk about my life right now. Yep. And we give them, and we respect that. Absolutely respect that.
Now, Tony, you also said you have, regular Masonic education. You had a simple debate once upon a time. And I don't like to call Brother Masons liars, but the first debate at Tuscan Lodge was based on, is Masonry a Christian
thing? Is it a religion? Is it a religion?
Is it religious?
Masonry a religion?
So, and you packed in a lot of people for that regular Masonic education.
Right.
But, and as I understand it, Tuscan does a lot of that stuff, has topics that might be just a little outside the norm. And I know you pay for speakers to come in to talk about those things as well.
And that's the thing. That's what speculative masonry is, isn't it? It's challenging some of the things we do and trying to get everybody's opinion about what masonry is teaching us. Right? We hear the lectures. In fact, we have grand lectures in our membership. Right? We have guys that have a working knowledge of a lot of different subjects in Masonic education. And so whenever you think you're an expert on something, come to a Tuscan Lodge meeting and let us talk to you about it. And that's the fun part of Masonic Ed and speculative masonry, is because what we need to do is challenge each other and challenge some of the things that we think things that we do, and why do we do them the way we do it. And that makes a really interesting conversation. But you got to have guys that are willing to open up and really give their opinions and put themselves out there, and be willing to listen to others' opinions about what certain working tools mean to them, what are our degrees, why we do our degrees the way we do them, and all these things. And boy, that really opens it up to guys that want to get as much as they can and learn as much as they can. Of course, I'm just a Blue Lodge Mason. We have Masons in Tuscan that are involved in York Rite, Scottish Rite, and all the chapters and all the other things, and they have some extra knowledge too about some Masonic Ed and about that Masonic experience. And so it's good to get those conversations going. But that debate we had about religion, it took us a while to get through that. Of course, we never solved that problem, or we never came to a solid conclusion. But we at least opened that debate up and let people decide for themselves whether or not they believe Masonry was a religion by definition.
Certainly. And just a few more people checking in live. I got Steve Zumbrum from over in at Lebo. Yeah. I've got Kenny Beeler from Colorado's checked in, and Steve was talking about they have time on their agenda to go around in the room for sickness and distress and blessings and such. But in Tuscan Lodge, do you guys use a consent agenda? And if so, why?
Yes, we do. We use it because the business of our lodge is self-improvement. The business of our lodge is not. It's something that we can get done quickly, so we can go on to the things that really interest us about what Masonry is. So we use a consent agenda for our minutes. Of course, we send our minutes out by email. We send our treasurer's reports out by email, and we get that all taken care of. And it just takes some of that mundane stuff out of our meeting and leaves us that time that we want to use for more interesting endeavors.
And so to lodges that don't use a consent agenda, what would you have to say to them?
Well, I've been in lodges where those brothers love to hear the minutes. And if they love to hear the minutes, read it to them, right? Consent agendas are for lodges that want to move forward and get some other things done, that they understand that the business of a lodge is different than what the lodge is there to do for the membership. We don't want to argue about who's going to clean the toilets. We don't want to argue about. We don't want to have a discussion about the mundane or the regular bills or the taxes or anything like that. And so we use a consent agenda, but I would argue that not every lodge does need to use one. If they want to incorporate Masonic Ed, and they've got guys, if their meeting starts at 7:00 at night, and they want to have Masonic Ed, and they want to read the minutes and do all that thing, sometimes that meeting is going to go too awful long for some of the older members that really don't like driving late at night. So it depends on what kind of time slot you're using or what you need in your lodge. A consent agenda for us at Tuscan, since our meetings are normally afternoon meetings, sometimes we've even had morning meetings. So it's not that we can stretch out that meeting time, but we don't want to spend all of our time worrying about the financial dealings of the lodge, because we can see all that through our reports and our minutes and things like that are put out before the meeting.
Now, early on, Tony, you mentioned something about a strategic plan.
Oh yeah.
A lot of lodges, I mean, that's kind of a business model things that Grand Lodges talk about a lot. Why does Tuscan Lodge have one? What's your thought about lodge? I mean, just my Blue Lodge getting why is that important? I mean, the theme here again, preserving the history of Freemasonry. Does strategic plan play into that?
Sure it does. Tuscan is not a club. Tuscan is a Masonic lodge, and we always, at every lodge, they should have goals. And we decided early on that not only was the Grand Lodge helping to give guidelines and ideas on how to produce our strategic plans, we wanted to be in the forefront as leaders to do that ourselves. So we created a strategic plan that back in 2016, and it is still working. In fact, I have a copy of it. Let me read a couple things. I think it might be interesting. It says, our strategic plan is to observe the intent of the founders of speculative masonry. Our strategic plan is to deliver our members an institution with a high regard for the dignity and formal decorum not often found in our home lodges. So that is something that we're striving to do. And if we get off course of that, if we say, okay, I've got a visitor and he wants to wear jeans, yeah, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Our plan is to always maintain that decorum. And so our strategic plan also says we want to create a unique and contemplative atmosphere for our members by providing a rich variety of Masonic education topics and speakers. So what that plan does is it says, well, we know a lot of lodges, they have one guy that does the Masonic Ed in their lodge every meeting, or maybe two, and they just rotate back and forth. Our plan isn't to allow that to happen. We've got guys that can do Masonic Ed. I can do it. Dale Morrow can do it. You can do it. We have members that could do. We could just rotate amongst ourselves. But our plan says that we're going to get outside speakers. We're going to expand the Masonic Ed that is normally done in lodges, and we're going to get some new viewpoints. And in fact, different jurisdictions have speakers, and of course, this podcast has guys coming in from different jurisdictions, and this is a really good venue for guys in their lodges to get Masonic Ed that they don't get in their home lodge. Well, in Tuscan, you can get that Masonic Ed in our lodge because our plan says that we are going to maintain that Masonic Ed platform where we go out and we try to get speakers from outside of our lodge, maybe outside of our areas and even outside our jurisdiction.
So with that in mind, Tony, there's people that that always struggle, and sometimes even the district and area deputies struggle when they get that reach out for Masonic education, or just that maybe it's help building a strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Brothers of Tuscan available? I mean, would they be willing to come out and help my lodge or our listeners' lodges do
Absolutely.
these things?
Yeah,
You're a Saturday lodge. I mean, so how does that work?
absolutely. Remember, we're plural members. We have our own home lodges, and we understand that those lodges meet during the week. I myself, like a lot of members in Kansas, belong to several lodges, but I get calls out. In fact, Monday I went to Peace Lodge and gave Masonic Ed. It was great. It was fantastic because they had two young, new entered apprentices in their building right then. They were getting their lectures, and so my Masonic Ed was about speculative masonry. So I didn't bring that from Tuscan. I didn't say I'm from Tuscan Lodge and I'm bringing your Masonic Ed, but absolutely, our Tuscan members are just designed for that. We've done it several times. Over the years, area and district deputies were encouraged to do presentations at leadership academies. So we have experience for that, and a lot of that leadership academy is simple things that can help lodges. And in fact, I believe some of us have even done how to create a strategic plan at a leadership academy, and we can take that knowledge and take it to a lodge just by a call. With the M2, with our database, everybody can look and see who our members are, and they can pick and choose. Give us a call. We can come out as a group, or we can do it individually. We're always willing to go to a lodge and do anything we can to help their younger members, to help do some mentoring, some leadership training, or some Masonic Ed.
Now, Tony, if they want to do that, if somebody's from outside of Kansas, how could they get a hold of, say, you?
Well, it'd be real easy. You can get on, let's see. I think you would call Tracy. Tracy. He can pass that on, especially from another jurisdiction.
So this is one of those questions that I softball out there, because this is Tony's easy way that he's forgotten to say. You could go to our lodge page. You could type in our lodge page, Tuscan Lodge. It'll pull their web page up, and you could link right to them.
You can do that, yeah. But if it's another jurisdiction, I would encourage them to contact our Grand Secretary, and then he can actually reach out to any one of us and see what we're willing to do to help them. And of course, it's not hard. It's not far to go to Oklahoma to do some Masonic Ed or some leadership training or whatever. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Now, one of our current Grand Lodge officers, I wouldn't ever call out Derek by name, of course, but he is recommending that they send an email to bloom@kansasmason.org.
There you go.
Direct hotline to the Grand Secretary.
He's got to figure it out too, then. He's got to figure it out.
He certainly does. And I believe he's been a guest at Tuscan Lodge as well.
Yeah, and I don't mind saying he's actually applied for membership for Tuscan, and we may be even trying to ballot on him at our meeting coming up.
Well. So we're recording this on December 1, 2023. Tony, when is your next meeting?
It's going to be December 2, and it's going to be in Emporia.
And I know you're an Affinity Lodge. Who can come to Tuscan meetings?
Actually, any Master Mason can come to a Tuscan meeting.
Okay.
Any Mason. What the requirement would be, of course, is to come with a dark suit and tie, and I encourage you to bring an apron. And if you're going to come, it's always good to give us a heads up and you can call me. You can go to the OLP, or you can get a hold of a Tuscan member, and then we can actually include you in a festive board if you'd like to do that with us. But actually, you don't have to be a Master Mason. You can be an entered apprentice, whatever. If you're a Mason and you're interested in visiting Tuscan, of course, to become a member, you have to be a past or current district or area deputy. And we always encourage as many of those guys as we can to come and visit and see what Tuscan is all about. and see if our group fits into the things that they need to learn or want to be associated with. But we're having our meeting tomorrow, actually, afternoon in Emporia. And it's not too late to show up. Like I say, we have a standard for dress, but if you want to show up to the meeting, great. We'd love to have you. We've got plenty of room. If you want to come to the festive board, it has to be an RSVP, and you can do that. You can actually do that through the OLP.
And that's a really good thing anyway, I think. Harkens back to a lot of the history of Freemasonry, is that meal, having to make plans ahead of time, and the bringing your own apron. That is huge from the history of Freemasonry. You get that apron on night one, bring it.
Right.
Bring it very much.
You can keep it clean and you can wear it. Just, we encourage to dig that apron that belongs to you, dig it out of that roll, flatten it out, and wear it. Bring it to the meeting. A lot of us wear white aprons, plain white aprons, and that's the Masonic way to do it. It really is. We have brothers in there that wear their district and area deputy meeting aprons. We've got a brother that wants to wear his Grand Master's apron, and that's fine too. And we have Tuscan aprons that we wear. But an apron is an individual thing. And if you have a past master's apron, if you want to wear that, that's fine too. But we always encourage you to bring your own apron, because we don't want to soil the aprons, the visitor's apron at a lodge that we're just visiting. So bring your own apron, wear a dark coat, suit, tie, no jeans, and you're welcome to sit in our lodge meeting. If you need to be vouched for, or if you know somebody, that's fine too. Or we can go through the procedure just like any lodge would do if they need to investigate a visitor.
Well, Tony, we're coming upon the 9 o'clock hour. Got a few minutes left here. I see another one of the Kansas Grand Lodge officers, Mark Reeder, has joined in. But I encourage everybody, whether you're watching this live or watching on a playback, comment in here some of your thoughts about what Tony's talking about. Also, shout out your home lodge. Shout out all your lodges that you belong to. Tell us what you think about affinity lodges in general. Some people love them. Some people think they're not a part of Freemasonry. And I would encourage you, if you think that, go to an affinity lodge meeting, because you can. They're not exclusive. Just the membership's limited, and that's great. If you're not in this case, a current or past line officer of a Grand Lodge, go all you want. I mean, you can't be a member. You don't have to pay those dues, but you can be a part of that experience. And that's great. That's the part. Tony talks about that all the time, and some of his other topics is about the importance of traveling and getting that Masonic experience. You heard that earlier from Tony about the Masonic experience, and that doesn't exist in Tuscan Lodge only. It could exist in your lodge and every other lodge, if only you were to visit and find out. But Tony, we are at the 9 o'clock hour. Alex started this tradition here on Historical Light Masonic Podcast back during COVID. We know that time was big for you. For those that don't know, Tony was the Grand Master of Kansas during COVID, and Historical Light Masonic Podcast and the Kansas Lodge of Research, which Alex is the director of, started doing nightly podcasts and toasting at 9 o'clock, similar to tradition over in England. And it became quite a big deal. And it was very well followed because here in Kansas, we couldn't meet as brothers. And Tony, you were a big, huge part of those 9 o'clock toasts. So it being the 9 o'clock hour here in the Central Standard Time Zone, I would ask if you would lead us in a toast.
Absolutely. I'm going to, I have one of my Patrick Craddock whiskey glasses, and I've got my favorite here. So I'm going to just give me a little to start with. And I want to make a toast to all the brothers out there that know that or believe that there's more to Masonry than what they're getting in their home lodge. Now, I'm not going to disparage anybody's lodge, because I know we got some great lodges in Kansas and other jurisdictions. But I will tell you that you do want to get out and you want to travel to different lodges, and you'll be welcome. You'll get something out of it. You'll learn some more. You'll get ideas on how you can improve your own lodge, and then you'll find out how you can pass those ideas on to other lodges. And that's what Masonic leadership is about. And we need as many brothers as we can to expand beyond the master of their lodge and become Masonic leaders in our jurisdictions to Masonic leadership.
Masonic leadership. Well, Tony, thank you for joining us. It's always enjoyable to chat with you, the Charter Master of Tuscan Lodge. And folks, thanks for watching Historical Light Masonic Podcast. Make sure like and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you to all those that are supporting. Don't forget to become a Patreon subscriber, and we'll see you for episode 138.